This is Mark Westerberg, and I am a school superintendent in Willits, California. This is the website trimesters.org. I get lots of calls and email connections from folks who are interested in high school scheduling. And so, what I'd like to do is take a few minutes to go through the current high school schedules that most people use. I have either been an administrator or a teacher in almost, well, at least half or more of these schedules and have worked with districts who have used these schedules. These are the most common schedules in current high schools. Let's first start with the 6-period day. The 6-period day is a very simplistic schedule. You take the day, divide it into 6 even periods, 2 semesters, and the classes usually are about 60 minutes long. There are year-long classes and semester classes, and generally speaking, folks either start early enough to end a semester before the Christmas break or midway into January. Blocks can be done in a schedule like this, and I'll show you an example of that later. Pros and cons are pretty simple. There's lots of instructional time for classes. You meet 180 days for 60 minutes. It maximizes the number of days of instruction you can have for a course. It requires only a base amount of staff. Teachers teach 5 of the 6. It's easy on administration and guidance to build and operate. What are the cons? Lack of choices for students. In today's world, states are requiring more for students. It's pretty hard to fit it in a 6-period day. Most folks are 7-period days or more. Too many classes for students. Kids who struggle take 6 classes a day. That's way too many for them. And it's really difficult for kids to load up all 4 core classes, which they call homework classes. And so the schedule is difficult for young kids. Even if you're going to a college, you don't take 6 classes. And there's no ability to repeat a class. The 6-period day in a block format, where you go 80/40s, is very simple. You have an A and B day, and on Friday, you make up all 6 periods are normal 60 minutes long. You could also use 75 or 45, but this is a way to block a 6-period day to create some block instruction. Again, some of the pros and cons remain the same. One of the things that is different, obviously, in this schedule is that it's more teacher preparations because it's going to create preps that are 80 minutes long, or a class they have to prepare for that's 80 minutes compared to 40. It could disjoint some of the class preparation. In other words, maybe it's not the right day to have an 80-minute period. Maybe it's a day when a shorter period would work better, but this schedule won't allow that. So ranging from 80, then 40, 80, then 40, and then 60 on Friday is a little disjointed. I would advise people who have a 6-period day to maybe use something like this in a semester or a 9-week period prior to trying a block schedule. This is a way to practice block time in a traditional 6-period day. 4x4 schedules. These were really popular quite a while ago. 4 classes, 90 minutes long, 4 each semester that are completely different. So you're done with a year-long class at the end of 90 days because it met for 90 days for 91 minutes. Some pros of this, more choices for kids. Obviously, they get 8 in a year. It's a lot of block time. It's less preparations for students and teachers. And so it's a very teacher-friendly schedule. What are the cons? Well, it's the least amount of instructional time. 8,100 minutes is a low number for a core class to be taught in. It's also not very many days to get the content in. So not only do you have less time, you have less days. Um, the class periods are too long. 90 minutes is just really hard to teach in. There are very few subjects or staff who use 90 minutes really well. It's just too long. The other problem with this is that you give an equal amount of time to an art class that you give to Algebra 1. So a student's beginning painting and drawing art class is 90 minutes for 90 days. It's the same amount of time that's been granted to algebra to try and get that content in. It's very difficult. 8-period schedule days with A and Bs. So you can take that same 4x4 schedule, but just run it out for the year and have an A and B day all year long. The advantage to this is that students would have 8 periods in each semester. However, you generally run this all year long. So it's a difficult schedule. Students are still trying to manage 8 classes. Often districts will take one of these periods and turn it into a seminar class. And seminar is not exactly a great use of time. Effective for certain things. Obviously, you run your content over the 180 days, but you're only instructing on 90 of them. This is a schedule that was used a lot initially, but over the last 10 to 15 years, it's kind of gone away. 8-period day with a catch-up day. This is an example of one of the things the previous schedule kind of morphed into, where you have essentially 8 periods that you run over the 4 days, 4 at a time. And then on Friday, you have every period meet for 45 minutes. 6th period is generally considered a seminar period for kids. The bonus of this schedule is it doesn't have some of the same attendance problems that you have with 4x4s and a traditional Block 8 AB day, because when a student misses on Friday, that means they didn't see their teacher, they saw their teacher Wednesday, didn't have them Thursday, don't see them Friday, don't see them Saturday, don't see them Sunday. They can go 4+ days with just one absence. And so the catch-up day is designed to fix that issue. But again, a lot of the same issues. Least amount of instructional time, a seminar which can tend to be some young adult daycare instead of productive, and it's too many classes for kids. 7 is way too many for a student to have. 8-period traditional day, teacher sees 7 of the 8. One of the things people like about this schedule, it really maximizes your staff usage. You're using your teachers to teach 7 of the 8 periods that are offered every day. This is a schedule that is a nightmare for kids who are struggling students. Often schools who run this allow study halls to be taken as one of the 8 choices. Again, not a very productive use of time. It's the least amount of time that you can give a core content is 45 minutes. The only good thing is you run at 180 days of instruction. 8-period schedule with an ABC day. So in other words, you would run an ABC day for all year long, and every day when the kids came to school, there'd be an A or B or C on the door to tell them what we're doing. Period 4 on the B day is a seminar. This does a couple things. One is it brings the block time down to a better use of time. 70 is much more conducive than 90. It does create some creativity for students and for staff. Again, there's too many classes for a kid. There's 8 classes, actually 7 if one is a seminar. Sometimes the seminar is not put in, but generally speaking, a seminar is put in. And so if you look at this again, there will be days when staff do not have a prep. For example, if you have fifth period as a prep, you have no prep on a B day. So this is a schedule that is creative, but not super teacher friendly or kid friendly. Again, it's an option. 8-period day on a 4-day rotation. This is a fairly simplistic schedule to see. There's an ABC day in this schedule. It's 8 periods. You do 6 periods in a day. In this scenario, a class meets 3 of the 4 days. And the advantages to this is kids get more choices. Often they allow study halls in these. There are days, again, where teachers do not have a prep. The other issue with this schedule is that you've now moved from 180 days of instruction for a course down to 120. So, pros and cons. A traditional 7-period day. The biggest issue with the 7-period day is for folks to decide, are teachers going to teach 6 classes or 5 classes? Obviously, if teachers teach 5, it's going to take more staff to operate. 7 classes, again, is a lot of classes for students to manage. The students who struggle really struggle when you start loading them up with that many classes. There's no ability to repeat classes, and there's no chance for block in this. A rotating 7-period day schedule. So if you look at a week and you take all 5 days with 60-minute periods, 6 periods a day, you run 6 of the 7 periods in a day. What you wind up with is 2 open blocks that are considered seminar classes. Again, it's very disjointed. If you're the first hour teacher, you teach it first hour, then second hour the next day, then fourth hour, and then fifth hour on Thursday. And then on Friday, you don't have the class at all. So it's disjointed. It's a way to squeeze 7 periods out of a 6-period schedule. It reduces the number of days. It creates seminars. This schedule is most often seen in a middle school, not a high school, because a few of the periods are electives for students on a normal basis, and the seminars get used differently in middle school. I've worked through this schedule with many middle schools. I've done trimester schedules with middle schools, obviously, as well. This is one of those schedules you'll see in a middle school. 7 periods with a makeup day. This is a way to block a 7-period day. And so, obviously, the odds meet on Monday, Wednesday. The evens meet on Tuesday, Thursday. Friday, you have a makeup day where all 7 meet. The unique thing about this schedule is you have very long periods in the 2 blocks at the top and the bottom block. The 50-minute block, if you'll notice, 5 is repeated on all 4 days. So 5 is a 50-minute class literally all week long. And the blocks are 1, 3, 2, 4, 6, and 7. It's a unique schedule. It's still 7 periods. It's a lot of periods to manage. 100 minutes is a lot of time, an awful lot of time to engage students in a single class. It does give you a lot of options, but I will tell you that this is a really tough schedule, especially for teachers, because they'll have 2 of the days where they don't have a prep. So a teacher who teaches, for example, and has 3rd period prep, on Monday and Wednesday, they would have prep, but on Tuesday and Thursday, they would not have a prep period. So it's a little tough for teachers. The blocks are too long. You also run into some issues with what they generally refer to as a skinny the fifth period when it's a shorter timed class in the middle of bigger blocks. 6 periods and 3 trimesters. Again, this is most often run in a middle school. One of the reasons high schools don't run this schedule is because it reduces the core content time. When you move from 75 minutes to 60 minutes, 15 minutes a day is a lot of time to lose in a class. So when high schools run this, they run 2 of the 3 trimesters, for example, like an English course, but it does reduce the content time significantly. In middle school, schools run this, but they also do some things with the core time. What they generally do is, in 6th grade, for example, they would have 4 longer core periods that might be 70 minutes, and the elective periods might be 45 minutes long. So 4 of the classes are the cores that would run longer, and 5th and 6th period would be electives that run shorter. I actually promote this schedule with the adjustment at middle school, because a quality middle school schedule has emphasis on core time, but lots of elective choices, and they don't need to be the same length as a core. You afford math to run all year long at 65 to 70 minutes, and band would run at 45 minutes all year long. So you value your time in the cores, but give lots of elective choice. Why do I promote the trimester high school? I have been an educator going into my 40th year. I have started this over 20 years ago using trimester schedules. It is by far and away the best way to educate kids. It gives flexibility, it gives creativity, and it's good for teachers and for students. It doesn't have an excessive long block time, and the ability to repeat classes is huge. Teachers teach 4 of the 5 classes each term, so over the course of the year they'll teach 12 blocks just as they would in a 7-period day where they teach 6 out of 7. The terms are 60 days long. The A refers to the first semester of a class, the B refers to the second semester of a class. So most of the A's are taught in the fall, and most of the B's are taught in the spring. The winter is about 1/3 of your A sections, 1/3 of your B, and 1/3 elective. This schedule works really well. You don't have to change your instructional day. The periods range from 68 to 75 minutes. This is a class program that allows students to fail Algebra 1A in the fall and retake it immediately in the winter. This is good for teachers. They only have 4 classes a day, and it's good for students where they only have 5. Generally, a student will only have 3 core classes and 2 electives. It's very similar to what a college would call quarters, except there's no summer quarter. This is what a daily schedule looks like in a trimester. This is from New Buffalo High School in New Buffalo, Michigan. When I was there, we ran a 5-period trimester, and we had a couple lunch periods, but we also ran a bonus schedule on top of that. This was an RTI period we put at the end because we had a long instructional day. We were able to go in, and on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, down at the bottom, whatever you had for first period came back to you for that time at the end of the day. So they had a 25-minute bonus period or 35-minute bonus period at the end of the day. It was done for students who needed help. It was RTI. It was only once a week. On one of the 5 days, obviously the teacher has a prep and they don't have a bonus period coming to them, but it's already scheduled in. You know who your class is. Your 3rd period class is coming to you on Wednesday for bonus period. But the trimester schedule has a ton of advantages. The ability to make up classes that are failed, the ability to get 7.5 credits over the year. It also gives teachers and students the ability to not be loaded up with 6, 7, and 8 classes. This is what a sample freshman schedule looks like. It gives students all of the core classes they're required. I put a band student is because band students are usually the most difficult to schedule. And this allows students to have 3 cores and 2 electives. I put a little side note down in the bottom because one of the things, if you look at my trimester information, policy and practice when you use the schedule is as important as anything. This is a policy that says anybody who gets less than a B in a core class in 8th grade, we make sure they have that section in the fall. So if I got a C in high school science or in 8th grade science, we make sure that they have science in the fall. That way we've built in the gift of time. Over a student's 4-year walk through high school, they're able to get 30 credits. There's plenty of space to get CTE endorsed, get your college readiness done, and have some good elective choices with the ability to repeat. As you move to a trimester, you increase the requirements to graduate, but you don't make them all required. You make some of those electives for students and a few of them required as you increase the number of credits required to graduate. Again, my name is Mark Westerberg, and this is my website, trimesters.org. I am a practicing superintendent and principal who have done this schedule for 20 plus years. It is the way to teach high school. I think you'll find that if you look at the pros and cons of what you want to get out of a schedule for your students and staff. Thank you for listening, and please continue to come back to the website when you're looking for scheduling.